The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning. I'm Fred Emery from Heartland. Thank you for joining us today for this webinar. The topic today is Data Integration Management with SwiftData. This webinar is being recorded. We will post it on our website within usually a week. It may be up prior to that, but within a week it should be on our website. The webinar is in listen-only mode, so if you would like to ask any questions, please go to the GoToWebinar control panel, and you'll see an area listed as questions. Just type your question in there, and we'll be able to answer your questions throughout the presentation, and we'll leave time at the end to cover them all as well. So as I mentioned, I'm Fred Emery with Heartland Payment Systems. With me today is Brian Adolph from SwiftData. Brian, if you could change the slide, please. Just to give you all a little background of who we are, I'll start off by letting you know a little bit about Heartland. Heartland Payment Systems is the 5th largest payment processor in North America. When I say that we're a payment processor or Heartland is a payment processor, what we do is enable clients, restaurants, colleges and universities, retail locations to accept credit card and debit transactions in their locations. Our core business is card transactions, processing those cards in a secure environment and handling all the back-end functions, much like a one-card system. When you look at one card, it's the same type of concept, taking a card and processing that transaction against the database to verify that there are funds available or an activity privilege or an access control. Heartland processes more than 3.3 billion transactions a year, which equals $122 billion in volume. So just to give you a little background on this webinar, really what we're going to cover today is data integration management and how SwiftData can enhance the experience of our one-card clients, enhance the experience of data management overall. We at Heartland have had a number of different methods to exchange data with different systems on a campus, such as your ERP, SIS, housing systems in the past, but we've used flat file exchange and web services, which are all still available and work. However, we've seen more and more systems needing to exchange data on a campus, and we were looking for a solution to save our campuses the time that it takes to put together these data exchanges and reduce their workload and ultimately reduce some costs. So we looked for a partner and found SwiftData and their solution. And I think it's really going to enhance the experience with our one-card administrators and allow you to tie different systems together and exchange data in a much greater, efficient manner. So with that, let me introduce Brian. Brian, if you could take it from here, introduce yourself, let us know a little bit about SwiftData and how your product can help our one-card clients.
Great. Thanks so much, Fred. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, you sound great.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks for everyone for attending the webinar today. I'm not sure how many of you are snowed in, and if you are, thanks for watching from home. We're very, very excited about this new partnership we have with Heartland. Heartland has an amazing one-card system. As we've developed this partnership and built these integrations with them, we've really gotten to see it firsthand. And it's, to be honest, a lot more robust than we actually thought. So it can do a ton. And we're thrilled that what we can do now with this data management process is going to help them and their customers.
I'm glad we surprised you about how robust the system is, Brian.
My previous life, I may have come from a competing system to Heartland. And now that we know more, we are actually very impressed with it. But before I get started talking about the exciting world of data management and what I know you're all dying to hear, how can you better automate your one-card system? Let's first talk about watching TV. So you gather the family on the couch for a night of quality programming. If you're like most American households, you might have a coffee table full of remotes that look like this. So you go to turn the TV on, and you need these two just to do that. Then you need to use this one to turn on that fancy new 5.1 surround sound system you just bought. And if you want to watch a DVD, forget about it. All of this work to do one thing: watch The Bachelor. Now, I'll let you be the judge if the effort was worth it. In my many years of working directly with card offices, I've found that this is actually the typical way of managing your card system. It's many actions and data inputs to do something, to process a meal plan, to assign door access, to make a housing change. I've talked with many schools about the process for managing their systems, and these are some of the things that they've told me. Our system admins spend 30% of their time and resources on managing the data between the ERP and the local enterprise systems. The time lag between updates to all systems was troublesome for the one card office, security, dining, and office of residence life. Not all information that needed to be shared across departments could be seen by all, which required numerous emails at times. There's this one: manually regulating who got into the project or conference rooms, especially during dead week and finals week, will not only take several hours, but also cause an excess of unnecessary headaches for the staff and students alike. Here's a couple more. I spent at least 50 hours over the summer manually readying the system for incoming students, and to have to interrupt my normal working day to intermittently update the system once the semester starts. I want a better way to deactivate students and staff. Now, these quotes have come from schools that have various different systems, most of them with actual what we call data integrations. My last one I have here is, this is a good one, my favorite. A file gets pulled from colleague and dumped into Excel. That gets emailed to me. Then I have to manipulate that data, export it into a CSV file, and load it into our card system. That's not to mention the 50 to 60 international students that get hand-keyed into the system by dining. I've been waiting 13 years for a better way. Now, that is not a Heartland client. But I'm here to tell you that there is a better way. We call it the Pinwheel Data Management Engine. So instead of using these, you get this. Pinwheel DME eliminates the headaches and inefficiencies of integrating your disparate, what we call auxiliary systems. So this allows you to take back your valuable time, all those 50 hours and those weeks and those emails and all these things that you do in your office that are not your core job of just managing your system. You get that time back. Now, if you're in the card office and you rely on support from IT, it usually turns out it's IT that has to do all the work, and there's nothing better in the world than pleasing your IT department. And finally, a really big benefit, and why we're talking with you guys, is a way to gain more functionality from your one card system, from the Heartland system. As I mentioned before, it's very robust, and there's a good chance you're not using everything you want out of it simply because it takes some effort to manage. So that's one of the things we want to do, allow you to better leverage that existing investment you already made in Heartland and other systems on campus. So let's take a look at how Pinwheel DME can automate the management of your one card system. When you look at a one card system, there's a lot of campus data behind the functions that make up your system. What Pinwheel is doing is we're gathering all this campus data, and based on the business rules of the college or the campus, we apply that data to these functions. So we're gathering all the data from your many systems of record and taking demographics, the account, pictures, meal plans, groups, balances, all those functions in one card. And instead of you having to figure out how to manage it or using native tools, we do all that work for you. In all one card systems, they all have a method for importing data. Fred mentioned a few. And I'll talk a little bit later about the inherent deficiencies with that native approach. But for now, I'll show you what you are probably using. So with one card, you might be using the mail program. Now, while it's very effective, it does exactly what you need it to do. In this case, someone likely must create a text file similar to this. What Pinwheel does is we eliminate the need to use any of these native integration tools, ultimately making your job easier. So let's take a look at some of the cool things that Pinwheel can do, what some schools are doing. I could spend a whole hour and a half worth of webinar just telling you examples, but for now we're going to limit it, just show you 3 of them. If you want to learn more, obviously you can contact me after this. So the first one, let's talk about a complex meal plan. Now this is from an actual school. These are their rule. A student receives X number of dollars per week with their meal plan. Each week the dollars roll over up to a max of 2 weeks for any given meal plan. On this campus, meal plan changes can happen anytime. Students can change them whenever they want throughout the semester. And that specific rollover requirement is that the 2-week maximum is from the meal plan with the greater amount. So in this case, this campus tells us what they want. We process those rules, and in the Harlan system, they just get the money. So no one has to do any of that work. Here's other more unique and specific examples. Now, this might not apply to your campus, but I just want to show you the things that you can do with this and take that and say, hey, this is an interesting process. How can we do something like this similar in our campus? We've dealt in the past and currently with a number of schools that have chapel attendance. So if there's any on the webinar that do this, this might be of interest. So you need to track chapel attendance. A lot of campuses that do this actually require a certain number of times going to receive credit even sometimes. So it would look like this. For step number 1, you're going to tap your card, do something using some kind of device. You may be using Heartland's really, really neat new check-in program that they have for iOS apps. Number 2, here's where Pinwheel comes in. We're going to pull data out of the one-card activity history or whatever their history is of all those swipes. We're going to process the logic, and then we actually go into your ERP system and put it where you want. In this case, it's what's called one school is a participation table, and that's where they realize their rules. So step 3, Pinwheel, like I said, we apply that logic, and we can even adjust that data based on any factor. So for example, years in school, your status, or your class schedule. So all you have to do is set up what you need to set up in your one-card system, swipe the cards, Pinwheel does the math, applies the logic, and puts that data in the ERP system. So if I go to 7 out of 9 events or chapel events, then we tell the ERP system, yep, that person did what they needed to do, fulfilled the quota that you told us they needed, and boom, automatically they get their credit. So that's an example of, and this could be any type of attendance, of processing logic rules to your activities. The final example I have here is unique. It's financial aid bookstore vouchers. So if you already have some process, this might not apply to you, but if you're a campus that is still using or has a process for manually using book vouchers, this will be a huge, huge help. We worked with one campus a while ago that manually administered their bookstore vouchers, and this is an example of the things that they had to do. So it took them multiple hours to run reports and put the appropriate amounts on the student's declining balance account. So that's in the transaction system. It took them an hour every day, the first few weeks of the semester, to verify that financial aid changes could impact the account balance that they have in the ERP system. After charges were closed, it took another few hours to upload those charges back to the student's account. The problem here is that a student, let's say they have financial aid money, they go and spend it in your bookstore, which maybe is a third-party vendor like Barnes & Noble or Follett. They're using this manual process. The student buys a whole bunch of books, hundreds of dollars in books. Within that time, they lose a Pell Grant, so their actual financial aid money has been depleted, but they already spent that money. So now the college owes Barnes & Noble, for example, a bunch of money that's already been spent. That's a nightmare. That's that major pain. So how does Pinwheel solve that problem? This is what it would look like doing it with one card. So the first thing you'll do is you'll create a financial aid bookstore balance in your one card system in that bucket. Pinwheel, every 10 minutes, we're going to read the bookstore charge history out of one card, getting both the charges or the credits if they return the book. Pinwheel is going to take those charges or credits and push that back into the student account in the ERP system. Pinwheel then reads all the account credit balances for each student and matches that amount with that financial aid book balance in one card. Finally, Pinwheel updates the one card balance to match the ERP student account. So every 10 minutes, essentially, we're keeping the one card balance in sync with a financial aid balance in your ERP system. So like I said, if somebody loses a Pell Grant or something, or takes a new class, drops the part-time status, anything that would affect how much financial aid money they have, we're constantly checking and keeping that in sync with one card. So you don't have that problem of spending money that you don't have, essentially. So those are a few examples. Let's take a little bit of a deeper dive. I'm not going to get too technical on this, but just to show you how does this all work. So this is your typical vendor dependent, I call this, data integration. These are your native integration tools that every system has. A lot of campuses use them, have built their own homegrown system around them that works very effectively. However, there's all that maintenance involved and the time to do that in-house. So some of the issues with this is it's often a one-way push of data from the ERP to the transaction system. That example I just showed you of the bookstore vouchers, that is going both ways, pushing data into the ERP system. So a lot of these native tools can't even do that. It also demands resources from both the client and the vendor to implement and maintain. And finally, it can cause undue strain on that transaction system from constant checks for updates. So I've seen this in other systems in the past. Even with good data integrations, it was still always checking for updates. What's new, what's new? Well, if you're checking what's new during lunchtime when that system is processing at the point of sale, it could slow it down or potentially crash your system. And these are some of the things I've heard from some of those clients that I've talked to. So let's take a look at what I call vendor-independent data management. This is the Pinwheel data management engine system that we use. This is a multi-directional data pass from your system or multiple systems of record to any third-party transaction system. There's minimal resource demands on the client, and there's no demand on the third-party system using what we call plugins, these pre-built plugins we have. All processing is done in our client program within the Pinwheel system. The third-party system only receives updates as they happen. So there's never a threat of slowing that system down. So let's take a look at the actual Pinwheel data management engine. So we call it a custom-tailored data automation process. You're outsourcing your data integration, your data management to us to do the work for you. 3 components that make this up: the client program, the DME database, and the vendor plugin. The client program is the brains of the process. This is where all the programming is done. This is where you tell us, because a student is taking this class and lives in this residence hall and is this and this and this, and any demographic information available, we want that person to open a door, to get a meal plan, to do this, to do that. We take all those rules, we codify them into this. This is customized for you. And then we pass that to the system. So this removes the need for you to deal directly with your vendor, which is a good thing. Usually takes up less time. All the updates and support are handled by us, greatly reduce the resource demands, and like I said earlier, there's no negative effects on that vendor system. We take that data in from all your sources, process it, and we store it in our DME database. Huge data warehouse, hundreds of fields, and all the non-numeric data in this system is encrypted. We then pass that data into what we call these vendor plugins. So we have these that are built specifically for each one of the systems that you talk to. We have 2 types. We have a certified plugin and then our standard third-party plugin. Our standard plugin can be used with any system using any generic vendor tools. Our certified plugin, and our Heartland OneCard is undoubtedly a certified plugin, we use the tools that they have. So essentially, we're using their existing integration tools instead of you using them, except we kind of skip the front end and go right to the back end so that we can do anything that can be done in that system. The limitation of any of our plugins is a limitation of what that system has. So earlier when I said Heartland is robust, why we're excited about that is it gives us a lot more that we can do with it. So for a system, and this is any system, I mean, traditionally or most commonly we found we're doing the OneCard transaction system and door access systems. Now Heartland has both, but you may have other systems as well. That's where we find we're doing the most. So we're only limited by what your system can do. All right, here's a look at an example, big example of a campus system architecture. So on the left, you'll see our client program. Often we're connecting to your ERP, or your student information system. If you have a separate housing system, we're often pulling data from that as well. And your badging system, if it's not a part of your OneCard system, still we might get data from there. Goes into our system and it gets pushed out. So in this case, we're pushing everything to Heartland. You may be using Heartland for meal plans, accounts, and for door access. This is my generic example where you might also have a third-party door access system already on campus. And some campuses have another door access system, for example, on a hospital campus. Some schools have a parking management system. So any third-party ancillary system, we will be passing that data to. And Finally, I'll show you an example of some of the systems of records that we're connecting to. So anything that's an authoritative source or an administrative system, we're going to pull data from. So in your case, a lot of you are probably using, if you're Heartland clients, their OneCard ID system or IDWorks. If you're using a different kind of badging program, we can also take from that and pass it into the Heartland system. So it gives OneCard a lot more flexibility in the other systems that they can connect to on campus. As you see, obviously the housing systems, and then really any ERP or student information system you have, we can connect to. In some cases, for example, one of our recent clients were connecting to Active Directory. That's how they wanted to set it up. So it's those custom tailored rules. All right, just to recap this, Pinwheel is the best way to get more from your OneCard system. Like I said, we're going to save you time, eventually save you money, and we make your job a lot more fun and easier, and get you back to probably what you were hired for, to manage the OneCard system, or focus on your core duties. It's funny, when we started this company, my main objective was, how can we make it easier for the client? How can we make it easier for you to do your job? What we're finding is, not only do you not want to do this work, but all the vendors don't want to do this work. Really, no one wants to do this work except for us. But it takes up a lot of time and resources on both sides. A lot of the vendors want to focus on their core. So what does Heartland do? They have an amazing, awesome OneCard transaction system that, as you know, does a lot with all their amazing phone apps and everything else they're doing, and their expansion into in the financial service. I'm going to tell you about Heartland because I don't know everything, but that's their core. So one of the reasons we partnered was, and Fred was the first one to come to us, is how can we make this better for your clients? And what we do really is just highlight what makes Heartland the best at what they do. So it was a short webinar. I didn't want to take up too much of your time, but definitely please contact me if you have any more questions. I love to share more examples of things we're doing on your campus. You can let me know, what do you have? What are you doing today? What's your process? And I'll tell you how we can hopefully automate it. You can also visit automatemycampus.com/Heartland. You'll be able to download a copy of this presentation. So that's really it for me. I just want to give you a brief introduction to SwiftData, how we can work with you, how we can enhance your OneCard system. If there's any questions from this, I'd be happy to answer them.
If anybody does have any questions, again, please feel free to type them into the question area of the GoToWebinar control panel. And by all means, you have Brian's information up there. Feel free to contact Brian, or you can contact your Heartland representatives, your regional sales directors, or myself at any time to ask any questions. We do have one question that's come in so far. Does it use web services or integration services for Banner integration?
No, for Banner, we are direct database integration.
One of the things that we've done with SwiftData is given them actually access to tie in directly to our processes within the OneCard system. So the web services are there for them to utilize, and certain functions may utilize the web service, but they do have direct access to our structure as well. And that's one of the reasons why we have that certified plugin, is because we have that that open architecture with them, and that allows them to really do a whole lot more within the system. They're not limited just by the functions within a service. They can go ahead and tap right into the database. Next question is this totally a hosted solution?
No, we do have an option to host the database off-site if you wish. I don't think we'll be doing that really with any campuses, just because you have on-premise servers with some of our corporate clients, enterprise clients we're now working with. They want that, but no, it's not hosted. Our system is SQL Server. It can sit on any server you have virtual on campus, anywhere really. All it needs is a connection. So yeah, it's not a hosted solution.
So Brian, if they already have OneCard on campus and they're running the SQL version of OneCard or what have you, they could load in Pinwheel right on the same server?
We don't traditionally want to put this on your transaction server for the same reason I said earlier, that it could slow it down. Oftentimes a school will put us on their ERP server.
Okay.
Really, anywhere you have a SQL Server to drop a database. Then we have that
Okay.
client program, which is actually a fairly small program. It does not take up a lot of resources. And then that plugin. Now that plugin is a Windows-based program, and that is going to go on the Heartland server.
Okay. Perfect. Next question is, what's the integration model for PeopleSoft?
It's very similar to the same one we have for Banner or for Genzabar. You could, if your ERP is SQL Server or Oracle, it doesn't matter to us. So as Fred mentioned before about web services, direct integration, we can integrate pretty much any way you want. We're always looking though for a direct database connection.
Okay, so in most cases, though, we'll be hitting the database directly for PeopleSoft, much like we would for Illusion Banner.
Yes, our process is similar. Where it's different is because every campus wants to do it differently. It depends on your IT department, your security level, how you want to do it.
Okay.
For example, with Genzabar, we have a client that we have full admin rights to their ERP system, which is kind of nuts. But we have everything. In some cases, we use Sprox or stored procedures. In some cases, you'll create, because they don't want us to touch your banner system, which is fine, we'll have an intermediary table that you'll create. As I mentioned before, another school wanted to connect to Active Directory. Everything goes through there. So I'm going to give very general answers because our first question is, how are you set up? How do you want to do that? And we're going to find what's the best, most efficient, most effective way to pull data out of your systems that you want to use and then put it into the system you want to do something in. So
So
almost
what
all that's the customized nature. So almost all these are personalized.
so what I'm hearing is basically the way you work is in a flexible type of environment. You assess how the campus is structured and set up, and what they will allow in terms of connection to those systems, and then utilize the pinwheel based product to create the necessary connections to those systems that will meet the needs of that individual client.
Correct. Every school is the same, and you have students. They come there to learn, hopefully, and sometimes they eat and sleep there. But every single campus that I've come across in my 9 years doing this now, they are run wildly different. Even though you're doing the same thing, every campus has different rules, different processes, different politics, and that's why we have a customized outsource approach to this with over about 25 years experience of doing data integrations like this in a campus environment is how to navigate those hurdles, how to do the most effective piece for what you want to do with the systems you're working with.
And that's pretty much how we sort of take our concept with dealing with clients with one card, because again, we've never met two campuses that
Mhm.
function exactly the same. That's why we've built one card to be very configurable and flexible. So it seems like a great partnership because we're flexible in the way that we can set up one card, and you have flexibility in the way you could deal with the campuses. So together we can make sure that we're meeting their needs to get that data flowing properly from between systems on campus.
Mhm.
Are there any other questions? Oh, yep, here's some more. What kind of costs are we looking at for this product?
It's very reasonable. Anyone that feel free to contact me, I can tell you the cost. The way the pricing structure breaks down, and it really is the same for all campuses, is we have those three components: the client program, the DME database, and the vendor plugin. There's an annual licensing charge for the DME database for the system that includes technical support, obviously, but includes what we call consulting, and that is I want to make a change. I have a new door. I have a new meal plan. Any changes you want, that's what we're always doing, and that's the outsource component. The client program, there's a one-time charge for that to connect to as many systems of record as you want. And the vendor plugin, there's a one-time charge per vendor plugin. So it's one cost to connect to one card. The nice thing if you have one card for door access and for meal plan and accounts is that it's one charge because it's the same database. If you had, for example, a different access system on campus already and then you bring in one card, it will be two plugins for that. Our annual charge is the same, no matter how many plugins you have, no matter how many systems you connect to. If you are a Banner client and you change from Banner to PeopleSoft, there's no additional charge for that. That's included with that annual support and licensing cost. So that's the breakdown. I could tell anyone specific costs offline.
Next question is, what's the normal timeline to integrate Pinwheel with the Genzabar system?
Great question. Depends on which Genzabar system it is. Uh, it depends on also on your side a little bit of what you want to do and how you set it up. Once you give us your rules, we have what we usually call a process document. That's our scope of work. And we'll have first we set up with a conference call, and it's all right. Tell us what we have. What do you want to do? We fill out the process document and send it back to you and say, okay, this is the data we're pulling. This is what we're doing. This is what we're passing it to. You sign off. You agree to that. We start coding, get to work. About 2 weeks for us to do the work or less. We just did a Genzabar client replacing their integration, connecting it to their one card system, and that took about 4 days.
Okay, that's not bad at all. It's pretty quick. Next one is, are there any vendor plugins for Fusion or Onity?
Currently, we don't have any built, but not to say we can't. I have more questions about that for whoever that is. If it's the Onity offline, which it probably is, or if it's Onity locks connected to an online system. So yeah, any of these specific questions, I'll follow up with everyone afterwards and give you real specific answers.
Okay, and Brian, you'll be able to get these questions
Okay.
when it's
Yeah,
documents.
we're building up. We're still a fairly new company. We're building up our cadre of plugins, but as somebody wants one, we build them. Here's where that certified versus standard comes in. The things we need. The only thing we need to connect to any system is a ODBC compliant database, and just the other company willing to work with us. And in some cases, they don't even have an ODBC compliant database, and we're doing file transfers. And we can still do that. We can automate as much as possible to be automated with the systems you have. It's pretty much what we do.
Okay, the next question that we have is, do you work directly with third-party vendor Banner PeopleSoft to set things up and resolve issues? It can be difficult when the college has to communicate with both parties to resolve issues, as each side believes the issue is on their side. So will you talk
No,
directly?
I always kind of overlook this, but that's one of the beauties of what we do is you don't have to talk to anybody from Banner or PeopleSoft. You don't have to pay anybody from Banner or PeopleSoft or Genzabar to do this work. All we need is, because the reason we have a client program and vendor plugins. So for the vendor plugin, your campus staff probably doesn't know the Heartland One Card database. We can't say, hey, give us access to the database and the data we need. We have to go to Heartland, and that's build this plugin with their engineers. I mean, we actually have the Heartland system on our computers, whereas your student information, your ERP system, you have an IT staff, you have people that administer that can give us the data that they need. So because of that, we going back to that no demand on the third party, minimal demands on the client, is that we're going to say, okay, what data do you want? Where is it located? It's located in this table. It's located in this view. Normally we ask for a view is even better because it's dynamic, coming from your Banner, your PeopleSoft system. Because you have staff that know that system and have access to it, you don't need to get them involved at all. So there's no point in the blame. We're not doing much. we're doing a lot within our system, but we're talking to you. All we're doing is you give us access to data. We take data. We do all the work. And we did this for a reason, in that there's no fingers to point. It's if it doesn't work on our end, it's okay. There's something in the way we built it. There's something in your rules. If you say something and a door doesn't open, it's because the wrong data is in the wrong spot usually, or because somebody typed in the wrong access level in the access system. We're really just matching data. So once we get through that, okay, you said you wanted this door to open based on this, but that based on data isn't actually right. Then you just say, okay, I'll put the right data there. No need to get the actual vendor involved. Long-winded answer, but I hope it made sense.
Okay. Question came in with how long you've been around. How long has the company SwiftData been around?
So new company for the most part. We started this company in August of last year. Me and my partner Bill have been doing this for quite a while. I said Bill's the original architect of this data management platform. He started when he was director of auxiliary services at a college in Philadelphia, actually now a Heartland client. he managed the one card system, and he built internally his own data integration process from the colleague system to their one card system at the time, because at the time it was manual. And he said, this is dumb. Why is my staff doing this manual work? And that was the impetus for, almost 20 years later, what we've become today. So new company, but we've been in the industry for quite a long time.
Okay. Last one that I see is, what is your availability for problems and issues that arise after hours?
Sure. So our standard tech support is from 8 to 6, I believe. Uh, Currently, we just fix things as soon as you tell us, okay, which is the answer to say. I will be happy to refer you to some client references currently. We do our best work at night on fixing any issues that arise, but we don't currently have 24/7 support, but that's something we might be adding in officially. Um, there's not many issues that arise. Now, while this is mission critical, if we're controlling your door access system, for example, anything can be fixed manually. So if the integration doesn't run, and these are some issues we've seen, we're still reliant on Windows and running on your server. So we've had a recent issue where schools, their server, their database got too full, and they had to increase the size. So that's caused it to crash overnight. So we fixed it. Actually, I think we fixed it that night. But they're still able to, okay, we can go into the door access system and make sure these doors open for these people. So we're never, and this is a question that comes up a lot when we deal with door access, especially with facilities or physical security, saying, hey, wait a minute, I have no control anymore. So we're never taking full control to do anything you want manually in your one card system or any of your other systems.
Okay, and I think that's important to also remember is, as Brian said, this isn't taking over the functionality in one card, it's passing the data to it and setting those rules. So yeah, if for some reason you weren't getting the data from Genzabar to add someone to a rule within one card for access control, you could go right into the access system and add it, or add a meal plan to someone manually until you're able to connect in with the folks at SwiftData to fix the integration piece.
Yeah.
You're still able to function and do everything that you need. It's not going to be a down situation where you're not accepting cards and whatnot. That's all still handled by the transaction system and the rules that are in place within that, and the meal plans and the financial balances. So the card holder will still be able to get access to what they need. It just might need to be added in onto someone's account in a manual fashion.
Yeah. And sorry for that clunky answer. When we started this company, we said, okay, we're going to have a strict 8 to 6 support policy, and lo and behold, we just fix things all the time as they come up. So we technically don't have after-hours support, but like I said, you can talk to any of our references, and they'll tell you, about our support.
And Brian, the person who had asked about the normal timeline for integration to Genzabar is on the Genzabar EX system.
Okay, that's perfect. Yeah, that's the system that we know the best. So easy.
Great. Are there any other questions from anyone? I'm not seeing any other ones that have come in, but we'll give you another moment or two to type in any additional questions. I got a bunch of question marks as a question.
Can't help with that.
We love questions. All right. Well, if you have any questions that pop up afterwards, feel free to contact Brian directly, or you can contact myself. My email is fred, Fred.emery, Emery, at e-hps, H as in Harry, P as in Paul, S as in Sam, or H as in Harlan, P as in payments, S as in system.com. So feel free to contact us, and we'd be happy to answer those questions and help you out however we can. If you needed us to come in and do a presentation both on one card and how we can utilize Pinwheel to integrate to other systems, let us know, and we can do a direct presentation for your campus.
Yeah,
With that,
and
go ahead, Brian.
yeah, say thanks to you, thanks to Fred and the whole Heartland team for being such a great partner, and thank you everyone for joining and for your really good questions. And I'll follow up with anyone that has, like Fred said, additional questions and give you more specific answers. So thanks a lot.
No problem. Thank you, everyone. This is recorded, and you'll be able to view it again or pass it on to your colleagues that may be interested. It should be on our website within a couple of days, a week at max. So thank you all very much, and I hope you have a great day, and I hope to see you all on additional webinars. You should be getting invites on those as they progress. Thank you so much, and have a great day.